Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes. No signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. No more. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Hello everyone, welcome to SimRacers World TV for the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters. Round 2 of action from Zandvoort at the Dutch coastline indeed. A lot of sand the drivers will be seeing all the way around them, and we hope that it's not going to cause any confusion with the field there. My name is Hasse Rømer, I'm joined by Edward May, and I'm hoping we're going to have a blast here tonight. We usually do this series, is one of my personal favorites indeed. And always seems ripe to deliver some very good, unpredictable action. Now, of course, a series with... it likes to call itself an amateur racing series. Edward, do you think that that covers it for what's in store tonight?
I don't think so, if I'm honest, Hasse. A lot of these drivers, while they might be branded as amateurs, some of the racing they've been providing us so far just after the first race this season at Imola has been anything but amateur, hasn't it? We've had excellent racing, great racecraft, and also a lot of good pace. The likes of Matthew Forrest and Cohen Mulder, who are currently first and second in this practice session, are putting in very quick lap times. And I was doing a few race laps earlier, and I was struggling to keep up with their level of pace. So these are some very quick guys here indeed. We're just following Martin de Jong now in Holy Cow Racing Audi. And just as well to mention, Hasse, is the fact that unlike Imola, which was an open setup, this is a fixed setup. So all of the drivers in each of their cars, all the Ferraris have got the same setup, all of the Audis, all of the Lamborghinis have the same setup, and that's going to probably provide some excellent racing here as well. Martin de Jong, a little bit of a mistake. That's so easy to do though, isn't it? These off-track zones, when you, as soon as you dip a wheel out onto the grass, you just go straight on a Martin de Jong. He decides, you know what, sod it.
Very much so, yeah. He just kept it in, floored it, and gave us a little bit of a spectacle, a little bit of entertainment. Good evening, everyone, and nice to have you along. We're just about 7 minutes actually, closer to 7 minutes away from the end of practice, which going to lead us into 20 minutes of qualifying here, and then 45 minutes of racing following the tried and tested VRS race format. So 45 minutes of racing with... half a tank, that's the limit on it, 50% fuel size, which means that they'll be in the pits for a splash and dash around the 30-minute mark of the race here. Matthew Forrest, quickest in practice so far, Edward. He showed some really, really good pace in the opening parts of the race last week, but had anything but good luck, I think we could safely say. He suffered a bit with it. Martin de Jong, currently 7th on the timing table, but he took the win last week, and goes to show things could get unpredictable indeed. Currently in the pits, our reigning champion, the Dutchman Cohen Mulder, with the home advantage here, if you will, virtual home advantage at least, but something that very easily could materialize into something in when it comes to racing, because you do always tend to know your home circuits a bit better, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. I have the advantage of being from the UK, and there are plenty of UK circuits on iRacing, the likes of Donington Park, Snetterton, Silverstone, Alton Park, Brands Hatch. Those are the ones that I'm usually quite strong at as well. So these Dutchies, they'll be trying to do all of the pace they can get out of this Zandvoort circuit as we follow now Lee Tucker behind the wheel of his Apex Tech Lamborghini, currently sitting 13th at the moment, and field spread is quite close, you have to say, at the moment, and it's difficult to really see who's going to be on pole. We have Matthew Forrest here currently fastest out of everyone, but only by, say, a couple of tenths. When we get into qualifying, it's difficult to actually pull off a lap around this track, because it's off tracks are something that's quite easy to do, and also because everyone's on track at the same time, it's so hard to actually find the space and find the clear air to get a quick lap off.
And it actually, when looking at it on the map, you think, oh, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to overtake here at Zandvoort, but it just, even though it twists and turns, it's quick indeed, and all the big braking zones seem to be ever so slightly coming into the bend early, and as you see here, coming into the tight right-hander at the end here, it also starts to turn in pretty early, and it's gonna be a tight squeeze many places on here tonight, and I think I can guarantee you that much. Also, this is one of those classic racetracks where the wall is still right next to the track, You have that fear factor that might be coming in. Of course, a mistake made here could be very dear indeed. We're looking at Lee Tucker, Apex Tech Racing, and the number 33 Lamborghini, and really enjoying the new additions to the GT3 field here. The of course the Lamborghini Huracan, but also the yet to even really materialize in real life the BMW M4 GT3 prototype, because it is of course a prototype, and it's something that's going to turn into a race car that we will be seeing coming to the racetracks of the world within the next few years, I believe, and a few of them out here tonight as well, including Dirk Reski, who drives this very same car I was about to say against you, Edward, in the SRW BMW trophy.
Yeah, exactly. The BMW M4 is a car that I'm very familiar with, as you mentioned, Hasse, and it's a car that's very stable as well. As we're running the baseline setup, it's one of the most stable cars on the iRacing platform in terms of GT3s. It's taken the role that used to be held by the Mercedes GT3. Don't forget, that was a car that we could often see, but now there's only, I think 3 of them here in this entire league, whereas we've got around about, nearly 6 or 7 BMWs out on the circuit. So double the amount of the old Mercedes, and it's really gone the way of the dinosaur, isn't it, the Mercedes? It used to be so good, but with the changes done to the tyre model, it's become a lot twitchier. Me and Chaz Draycott were talking about it just last evening when we were commentating on the Dynamics Endurance Series at Suzuka, and we were saying how Mercedes has really fallen out of favour. He tried to drive it going into Bathurst. Both of us have given a little bit of test for the GT3 cars, and we found that it's just so twitchy when you're trying to turn it in at any speed. So then again, another thing we mentioned was the Ferrari and just how stable that's become and how quick it is as well. You've just got the acceleration out of the corners. The way it accelerates is the best car on iRacing for that. If you just want the sheer grunt coming out the corners, it struggles a little bit on turn in, but when you have powering out of, say, the final corners, you're going to see Valdez Suarez doing now, you just pick it up so early and it's just nice and stable.
I think the recent tire model updates has also done a lot for the enjoyability of the GT3 cars on iRacing, which seem to handle a lot more like a GT3 should. Of course, that's my very subjective opinion too, and it's also something that, of course, I've never driven a GT3 car in real life, so I don't know how it's supposed to feel like, but it's indeed a lot more enjoyable. It's a lot more fun, and it's easier to bring the cars around, which certainly it's something that I think the drivers of this series will have noticed as well. Valdez Suarez in the picture at the moment. He was so close all the way through last season, and one of the main title contenders, coming from a very good result in the opening round of racing as well. He'll be one to watch throughout this series. We'd expect more of the Dutchman. We were speaking about this beforehand, Edward, that we expected the Dutchman to come to the front here, but that's not really what we've been seeing so far, really. Koen Mulder second, we got Maan de Jong in 7th place, and then the next Dutch driver, Sander Kaffa, down in 13th.
Yeah, exactly, and we're just seeing Sander Kaffa now. Look at that, the Dutch orange represented very strongly here on his Ferrari 488 GT3 machine. Look at that, the headlights are actually coming on as well on his car. I don't think I've seen too many other cars with their headlights on. Is it getting a little bit late in the evening? As, oh my word, Matthew Forrest setting a 1:35.89 or an 8:85. So very quick times coming in as we come to the end of practice. That is almost certainly preparation for qualifying, and that puts Matthew Forrest in a good spot going into this qualifying session that we're going to advance to any second now.
Yeah, indeed, he's got a big old gap down to Koen Mulder, at least compared to the gaps that follow, because they're all very, very close, hardly even 10th between the next few drivers. As you said, Edward, practice ticking over here. Qualifying has just about begun. I'm sorry, I told you it was 20 minutes. It is, of course, not 20 minutes. It's just 15. And while it might sound like a long qualifying session, especially when you've got everybody in. You got to take into consideration the need to do your out laps and all that stuff. And as you mentioned, Edward, as well, indeed the traffic factor as well, which is something that I think a lot of drivers will have a hard time with. Indeed, as the BMW clips the grass, trying to get out of the way. And that is certainly not the way to get a good outlap going, but I think he managed to keep it, and I'm not even going to be able to see it on the event viewer, I'm afraid, which I would have liked to see that one again, but it's not going to happen here. Still watching Lee Tucker. And that Audi behind, John Player Special, it's one of these liveries, we've seen it applied to almost every car in sim racing, Edward, but to be fair as well, it does look good. And it's a dress that fits nicely to that Audi. Oh, and the BMW getting loose in behind. Cold tires playing their effect here.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying earlier though, Hasse, isn't it? That it's so hard to find a clear bit of track in qualifying with all of the drivers out on circuit. We've got, how many are there? Over 30 drivers in this series taking part in this practice session. And that means that you're going to be finding yourself in busy areas. Timothy van der Broek backing off a little bit, wanting to give clear space in front of him so he's not held up on his flying lap. He now powers his way out of the final corner. And then we go to Sebastian Scandolera.
Scandolera, indeed.
Scandolera, that's right, in the virtual racing car. Look at that. That's a lovely, bright livery, isn't it? You're not going to miss that one whatsoever. And what little work he's done on the front. It looks quite similar to the Mercedes, the most recent Mercedes Formula One car. If you see the sort of the black with the white triangular little shapes on the front, then going into little trim. This time it's pink and bright and easily spottable on a circuit. So we'll keep our eyes out for him in the racing and qualifying. Meanwhile, Cody Steeg, the Holy Cow Racing driver in the Mercedes, as we mentioned, a car that's not too popular at the moment, running a Black Falcon livery. Looking right up behind the McLaren of, I believe that is, who is that? Is that Robin van den Heuvel, Rob the Lobster himself?
No, that is not the Lobster's Mecca, if you will. It is one of the Italian drivers.
Yes, I can see the flag on the top. I'm blind, I'm sorry.
I think that's, well, it was a guess if it was Sandro Orsini or Federico Carli, but it is Carli indeed in the 46 car. I'm a bit surprised that we haven't seen the first laps come in here. Scandalera should be close indeed. But of course, we've had a bit of a argy-bargy there, I'm afraid, there with two Ferraris. And we're going to have a look at just what happened.
Yeah, that was one of his teammates. That was Gaston Maceroni. Just loops the rear of the car on acceleration coming out of turn 11. It's so easy to do that, though, just because you're turning while accelerating, you're turning while braking, you're turning while doing so much with the pedals. As we see Valdez Suarez having another incident very similar to that one, but I just collected it a little bit sooner. Following those, seeing the first timers coming in, and Lee Tucker provisionally on pole for the moment with the 1:37.27. Martin de Jong, though, has done, I think, the exact same time, 1:37.27. Look at that, the margin's ever so close. Martin de Jong, Dutch driver, we were saying that Dutch drivers haven't been too quick at the moment, but they're certainly starting to prove us wrong now that we're getting into the qualifying session. Now that the fuel's coming out, they've got their, well, they don't really have the setups on. In fact, I don't know if they're even able to take the fuel out of the car for qualifying, so they might be running full fuel and just trying to see what they can do.
Good point indeed here, Martin de Jong. The question is he really being held up here, or is he actually comfortable enough behind the Tucker Lambo ahead? Stephen Orell currently third in the vegan Mercedes, one of the few Mercedes on grid, seemingly really able to be competitive. Of course, also a machine that he would be well familiar with. And here it is, Martin de Jong. He holding off here and allowing himself that little bit of space onto the next lap, and hopefully it's gonna slingshot him on to a quicker lap time. But you know what, I'm not sure that's really enough space here. Tucker not able to go quicker on that occasion. Just over a third of the way through qualifying here. Matthew Forrest now, as we were expecting, very quick indeed for a virtual racing compound. And the teammate of Pete Plastow as well in the Ferrari, currently 9th, but on an outlap. Expect him to go well indeed. Valdez Suarez and Gaston Macaroni, both of them putting in top 3 lap times as well. And the laps are coming in thick and fast here at the moment. Matthew Forrest, you can see the loose end of the Lambo there, but you know, Edward, a loose car, often if you can make it turn in, you can stabilize the car and get on the throttle. A loose car is going to equate to a fast car as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way to mitigate that is just shift your braking zones a little bit earlier, trail it into the corner, as Matthew Forrest is able to do at the moment. The Lamborghini on its baseline setup is a little bit twitchy on the brakes, so we're going to be trying to see if Matthew Forrest can tame the raging bull underneath the, well, not underneath the hood, but underneath the back of his machine, as we follow Cohen Mulder, seeing what lap time he's able to pull out of the car, having a look at his most recent sectors. It could be a good lap time, but will it be enough to get him up the order? It is. It's a 136.617.
So that's a
just a couple of hundredths, isn't
not
it?
even. It's a thousandth of a second.
Woo.
As far as I can see, Matthew Forrest immediately 0.4 of a second faster on his last lap, down in the 36.2s. But mind you, we got just into the 35s in practice, so expect the drivers to get a little more out of lap times here. I wouldn't be surprised. At least very much a question of finding the clear track space ahead and not being held up in any way. Driver we haven't seen is one of the other Virtua Racing Ferraris. They all seem to follow the same base livery with different colors applied to it. Very nice design, and I like the sort of 50s cartoon, like someone's getting beat up by a superhero every time they're going by. That's pretty cool indeed. And it's of course a team of Southern American drivers, mostly Argentine, and there could be only Argentine actually. I might be wrong on it, but I think it's only Argentine, which is pretty nice to see. We've got Argentine drivers, Brazilian drivers. We've got Americans in here as well, and of course a ragtag band of Europeans as well. So truly, indeed, a World Series here.
Absolutely, yes, Hasse. We've also got just one lone Scandinavian driver, Timo Paya, the flying fiend in the Holy Cow Racing BMW. And he's currently 21st at the moment, getting a little bit of a toe, though, off of the cars in front. As do a bit of an there, Hasse.
Yeah, I was just going to come in as a Scandinavian and say the Finns. If I've understood things correctly, the Finns aren't actually Scandinavian. While it might be controversial, they're most certainly Northern European, but I think Scandinavia comprised of Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, and nothing else really.
I've offended him.
You have offended me indeed. No, you haven't. But just as a bit of a list, and of course there are different interpretations of this, but geographically speaking, at least, I hope I haven't offended Timo here. But the Finns, quick indeed. They have something about them, whether it's in the culture or the blood, the DNA or the DNA or the genes. Couldn't really figure out which of the two should come out my mouth. So a mix it became. But wherever it comes from, Edward, they have something up there. I always recall the interview that. And the little clip from Top Gear where James May, namesake, Captain Slow, has a chat to Mika Häkkinen, one of my personal all-time favorite drivers indeed. and where he explains a bit about Finnish sisu. And I know you're actually doing your bit as well, Edward, to pick up on a bit of Finnish yourself, isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. Sisu is probably the reason, isn't it, why so many excellent drivers across the years are Finnish. They have just that sheer courage, that sheer bravery, isn't it, just to push and push. And also, a little fun fact I realised is that all Finns, if they do driving, they need to take advanced driving tests because oftentimes the roads are coated in snow and ice, and a lot of the roads in Finland are actually made of gravel, and they need to do testing and actually learn how to power slide. It's always, I think it's like technically law that all Finns need to learn how to do a power slide when they're taking their driving tests, which is probably the reason why a lot of them turn into such potent racing drivers, as we see Pete Plasdow, the English driver, getting out of the way of other cars while they're on their fast laps, finding a nice bit of space. He's currently sitting in 4th position, trying to find any extra time as, what has happened here?
Pedro Baribon Cladera in the anime Mercedes, the GT300 car that has come to Europe to race. Has had a bit of an off indeed here, and he's gonna be feeling the effects of that. I think he'll be able to put in a lap, perhaps 2, but he'll be pressed to do so. He's currently 29th. You mentioned the amount of starters. 40 car grid here, Edward, for the race tonight, which is going to be more than enough to make it a very, very congested track indeed. And it's going to be a maze for the drivers to navigate on the first opening few laps here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to getting this race underway, but for now we've got this exciting qualifying session to watch through. Margins ever so close at the front, however. Just a 10th separating Matthew Forrest and Gaston Macaroni in the virtual racing Ferrari. He's got a nice bit of clear air, and is he going to be able to... I don't think he's on a lap at the moment, or has he just started a lap?
That is a good question indeed. Cohen Mulder's last lap was also his best lap with a 36.36, which has put him just a 10th off of pole position. He's just completed another lap that's just about half a second off of that pace. He'll be trying it again to see if he can put his Ferrari on pole position on home turf here in another 2 minutes. So he'll be able to put in 2 more laps as well. That's not going to be the line through there, I'm afraid. Missing the apex ever so slightly. Trying to get the most off the banking there, I think. He plashed out still right ahead of the Mercedes, and there are some interesting scenes as people are trying to get track space for that all-important final lap. People, I think, know this is going to be the one, and it's going to be no good if there's someone right ahead of you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about finding that space for the last few moments of qualifying as Pete Plasdow comes across the line to start his final lap of qualifying. Nick McLaughlin, the Canadian driver, sitting in 11th place, currently on an out lap, so he's going to have one shot at breaking into that top 10 with the likes of Timothy Van der Broek, Sabino Melillo, and Jose Godinho just ahead of him. Jose Godinho actually in the pits at the moment, and if he was to come out now, he still wouldn't be able to make the outlap and then start a flying lap, so he's going to be hoping that 8th position is where he stays come the end. Niels Cornelisi, 22nd place, the driver that we do know is actually quite quick at times, but at the moment, sitting down in 22nd place, a position I wasn't really expecting to see him, Hasse.
No, indeed, we'll see how the Audis fare along. Matt de Jong, certainly very fast, but it could be that the setup that they have on offer for tonight isn't really speaking to the strong sides of the car or the track for that matter. But it's hard to tell really here. Matthew Forrest, which I think this could be his last attempt indeed, and he's now finding the rear end of Cohen Mulder here, which is actually okay. Cohen Mulder, a very capable driver as well. So
yeah, Cohen Mulder only a 10th and a half faster than Matthew Forrest's best lap time, so Matthew Forrest could be actually able to use this slipstream to a massive advantage and really consolidate his lead in this qualifying session, especially if Kurt Mulder makes a little mistake like that, missing the apex, losing the rear end of the car, and all of a sudden, Matthew Forrest is back up behind him. There we go, Kurt Mulder losing the rear end of the car. He's pulling out of that lap time, not able to improve. But was Matthew Forrest held up in that situation? Is that going to allow Gaston to improve? No, Gaston does not go faster. He stays in second place. So I can't see any drivers on laps that could potentially challenge Matthew Forrest at the moment. And we would expect the Virtual Racing compound driver to take pole position here in this qualifying session.
Yes, indeed. We're not a long way away from the definitive end of this qualifying session. Just a minute ago, as we had the checkered flag come out, and we'll see just how it stands at the very end of things here. Valdez Suarez grabs another place away from Martin de Jong, goes 5th fastest there. Let's see if Savino Velilo is still on a hot lap. He should be coming in right about now, and he is indeed. The Italian 9th so far. Let's see if he would be able to improve with a 1:37.6. And that's not going to be an improvement for him either way. Dirk Brinksma is pulling out of this one, I'm afraid, as well. And Cladera is probably not going to be on a counting lap as well, which put the Spaniard 33rd indeed, as we have the final few drivers just rolling around ever so slowly. Let's see when we can get the grid order on screen for you to have a look at. And it's probably just going to be a matter of seconds indeed. Edward, as we expected, a close qualifying session here, and let's see what impact and how important it's going to be to the outcome of the race.
Yeah, exactly. It's a circuit that is notoriously tricky to overtake, being so narrow and so twisty. All of the corners cambered very well as well, so that if you do send a move down the inside, the driver on the outside can use the camber to their advantage and sweep around the inside, then get the inside for the next corner. But Hasse, run us through the starting order for the second round of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters.
It is indeed Matthew Forrest on pole position, ahead of Gaston Macaroni, the Argentine driver, Pete Plastow and Koen Mulder on row 2, and then Valdez Suarez and Martin de Jong on row 3. Lee Tucker and Jose Godinho rounds off row 4, and then it's Savino Melillo and Timothy van der Broek. It is running off the top 10 for stage 1 racing. Then Mick McLaughlin 11th and Mariano Lasarte in 12th place. Then Cody Steek, Stephen Orrell, Sebastian Scandalera, and Luke Schneider, and that's the 8th row of cars on the grid. Sander Kaffa, Gaston Body, Dirk Risky, and Stuart Jacklin. Then we're at Stephen Krall in 21st, and Luca Giagliardini in 22nd place. Then Dirk Brinksma and Nils Cornelius with an all Dutch round, or row 12, that is. Sandro Orsini and Timo Paya is up next. Then Rob the Lobster in 27th, ahead of Guillermo Javier. And we've got Alessio Cornelio in 29th place, with Alfredo Tricarici in 30th, ahead of Dean Pavicic, Damian Kober, and the aforementioned Pedro Cladera, and Matthew Maddox 34th. The sole Ford GT of the grid represented by Chris Pio, and Apex Tech in 35th place, ahead of Gary Waldron. And then we've got Orkun Kolak, Federico Carli, we've got Sven Dalemans and Emanuele Lucioli in 40th and last place.
40 drivers, Hasse. This is a bumper grid here, and we'll have a full pace lap behind the safety car, giving the drivers plenty of time to warm their tyres up, and that gives us plenty of time to build up the excitement to get ready for the second race of this SimracerCoin GT3 Masters Championship, one that I know you and I really love to commentate on, and it's going to provide excellent racing, I'm sure.
Yeah, indeed. And watch out for a few of the drivers. Be tipped to do well. Of course, all of the drivers, all within the top 10, are all drivers we've seen do very, very well here in the series before. And then it would never be be above anyone coming in from behind to put in a good performance as well. The opening couple of laps expected to be, well, let's just be honest. I think they're going to be quite chaotic indeed. And I think a lot of drivers are going to be having to show quite a lot of restraint if they're all going to be able to make it around. Now, what we sometimes see in a tightly packed field like this, is especially if you have incidents happening in the first third of the field, that can really create havoc for everyone in behind, and especially somewhere like here at Zandvoort, where the walls on such a large part of the track are indeed very close to the track itself, which means that there is a tendency for cars to be thrown directly back onto the track and into oncoming traffic here, something we certainly don't like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Forrest and Gaston Macaroni will be hoping that all of that incidents and accidents happen going on behind them, as we see what's happening here. Federico Carli doesn't seem to make it to the grid, does he?
Oh, there's a bit of a problem, I'm afraid, there for Federico. Dirk Reski is starting from the pits as well, as far as I can see, which is well, it is what it is, and it's not optimal, but they'll have to cope with it the best they can. And let's see what kind of start we get here off. Obviously, it's something we've seen a few times lately, with the starts kind of being bunched up behind the leader and then the leader going relatively late. And I would say it's probably advantageous to just try and go as early as possible. Now, let's just hope we get some signal back there for Matthew Forrest. There it is. Oh, when we get
there it goes.
Blinky moment there for a second, that always makes you a bit nervous for the stability of the driver in question's internet connection.
Yeah, I had a bit of a heart and mouth moment last time at Alton Park, where it was at the end of the second race and my internet cut out for basically 2/3 of the lap, and I was convinced as soon as I heard the Discord disconnect sound from me and my teammates that was it, that was me disconnected from this. It finally came back in though when I was inside of another car, which was a bit weird, but managed to make through that all right. And Matthew Forrest is going to hope that everything is all right, as he will be able to bring the field through and start this race. Only a few corners to go. He's going to start to set the pace, start to create maybe a bit of a gap to the safety car up in front. And when he goes, he's going to try and catch out the drivers just to the side of him. Gaston Macaroni, also maybe Kuhn Mulder and Pete Plasdale as well behind, will need to keep their beady eyes open for when Matthew Forrest puts the hammer down and gets this race underway.
Yeah, he's creating a bit of a gap to the safety car. The safety car is going to peel off to the right any time now. It's a late pit entrance here at Zandvoort. It's a tricky one indeed as well. Very old school, if you will. And, well, as I said before, we'll see. But that's not going to allow anyone to go particularly early, because they cannot pass the safety car, of course. So it will indeed be a late bunched out spot. There goes the safety car, and it's going to be go here for round 2 of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters. And round 2 at Zandvoort is underway. There's a very good start from the homeboy Koen Mulder, but it gets kind of bunched up, and it's actually a really good turn 1 for the man in the picture here, Pete Plastow, and a few cars in a bit of a tangle there, double 2 wide here at the head of affairs. The top 2 cleanly away. Plastow third, then Mulder. I think it's Martin de Jong ahead of Valdir Suarez. It is. Oh, very much not so. They're side by side here, and I think it's the Brazilian on the inside, and the Ferrari is going to take the position in the end. And if not, that's Martin de Jong on the outside, and the Audi. Oh my word, incredible driving from the Dutchman to hang on to 5th place. And we've had a few more incidents behind. I'm afraid we'll just take you through them shortly once the race has ever so slightly settled down. And just to see, here is another of the Virtua Racing Argentine drivers, Gaston Bori, in the 11th car, the number 11 car, but in 18th place, I should probably say. And at this moment seems that a large part of the field indeed has been able to make it safely off the start ramp here, and we'll just have a look at those who didn't. Edward, let's just try and have a look at what's gone on here at oh my word, Nick McLaughlin and a few of the... Oh my god, that's actually a...
That was one of the virtual racing cars, I think, that just outbroke himself into the rear of Nick. I'm not sure which one it is. You can see the pink car there on the left-hand side of the screen. Just outbrakes itself, collides into the rear end of the Ferrari in front, and that actually sends his team, Mariano Lazarte, down the order as well. That's why he's down 4 places since the start. He gets back on track relatively easily. This is Luke Schneider as well. Just gets a little bit of a tag. All the cars trying to move left and right to avoid an incident in front, but that just causes more carnage further back. It's very unfortunate to have incidents like that, but that's just part of racing on the circuit. It's just ever so narrow, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed, it's a difficult one, and I think we called it as well. And it would be hard to get him cleanly through that first corner. That turned out to be a correct assumption for once. I'm wrong from time to time, so I have to appreciate it when I'm right. And that was one such rare occasion indeed. Here's Gaston Macaroni. Second place at the moment, doing well to keep Pete Plastow behind. There's another Ferrari of Koen Mulder, currently in 4th place and all over the rear end of the Brit. And then Martin de Jong in his Audi with Valdir Suarez all over his tail. So the top 6 still very much within touching distance. And saying that though, Matthew Forrest up ahead. Now sitting on a 1.3 second advantage down to Gaston Macaroni there second. And that could well be the advantage that he's going to try and build on for the rest of the race here.
Yeah, absolutely. As Matthew Forrest sets the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:36.489. Very quick lap time coming in from the Lamborghini leading this race. But Valdir Suarez, he's already been passed by Martin de Jong. He wants to try and get back up the order, but it's so hard, isn't it, when you're trying to go through the corner, trying to find a way through, because it's left and right and left and right. The corners, you think it opens up a move for you, but then it gets closed right off once more just from the way the track moves and curves through the sand dunes here at Zandvoort. And Valdir Suarez, he needs to really have his work cut out for him. Martin de Jong with the brilliant overtake, it has to be said, at the beginning of the race to get into 5th place, and he doesn't really want to give it up just yet. Further at the front of the field though, Koen Mulder, he's going to be seeing Pete Plastow having a little bit of a look on Gaston Macaroni going into that tight right-hander, deceptively tight right-hander, but it doesn't quite present the move for him. Alfredo Chicarici with a little bit of damage on the front of his car, but trying to find any way past, dives down the inside on the virtual racing driver and gets the position done. And Alfredo Chicarici up 10 positions, kept himself relatively out of the danger as we see going around. That was the who was that? That was one of the Ferraris, not the Ferraris, one of the Lamborghinis. That was Matthew Maddox.
Yeah.
Oh, so easily done. It's the brakes, Hasse. It's the brakes once again of that Lamborghini. As I mentioned, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes to get it stopped and to get it turned around, and that's exactly what has happened. He got it turned around, but it turned around just a little bit too much for him.
It's been a problem here for Sven Dalemans, who picks off the grass there on the inside, picks off the tire wall as well. That car doesn't look too good as well. It's not the first few bits and bobs of contact it has
too familiar
had.
with that sort of incident on the brakes on the grass.
Yeah, it's something you've tried before, isn't it, Eddie? It's certainly it's something we've seen, but to be fair, I think the virtual racing driver has had an experience or 100 with that, to be fair, and it's just a question of when you learn to just always stay 10 centimeters off of it, and you'll be good forever. But at the same time, you'll also be a tenth slower every lap. So that's the thing. It's always it's a big old game of risk assessment, and there's a lot of gains to be made here. Gaston Macaroni still looking very, very strong here, or Gaston, and we should probably just call him because that's what he's gotten on the name tag. Maybe tired of hearing Italian jokes, spaghetti jokes, if you will. But on the other side, he does have Macaroni on his windscreen there. So that perplexes me a bit indeed here. Koen Mulder the reigning champ is in the midst of this 5-way battle. It seems to me that Valdez Suarez is just ever so slightly held off at the back of the train, which is... He probably could be a wise move here. Pete Plastow, he wants something done and he's coming up the inside there. I think he's going to have a look. At least Macaroni covers it off and then it's passed out to the outside into turn 1. We see it all. That's PK-esque. And will he slide and flip him the finger as well? No, he will not. Because, of course, Pete Plastow, much more of a decent man than Nelson PK probably ever was. Through he goes, though, with a very, very nice move around the outside there.
That's the camber going into effect. You can just sweep all the way around the outside, carry a lot of speed. It's so difficult to defend into that corner because if you give them the inside, they can just send it up you and take the position. But if you give them the outside, they can just sweep around and carry plenty of speed. We're going to see an instant replay of that maneuver. And just look at that. Pete Plastow, the amount of speed, the confidence he has in the car, carries it around on the outside. Because he had a wider line through it, he can get on the power that little bit earlier. Doesn't have a hampered run and then gets himself back up into second place. Gaston Macaroni just slotting in behind, covering off Cohen Mulder, who, well, we can see him right behind now. Cohen, we know he's a very quick driver, the reigning champion, don't forget. Going to see if he can get himself up into the podium places, because by the looks of things, while Gaston did have a lot of pace in him in qualifying, in the race, he's struggling just a little bit.
Yeah, might be he's trying to just keep his tires alive for later in the race. We've seen it before, and especially I think here at Zandvoort, a track that can really hurt the tires if you are too aggressive on them indeed. We're only 8 minutes into a race of 45 minutes, and Valdez Suarez has a little excursion onto the outside of the final corner there. Keeps it all well and good, but it could have gone badly wrong indeed had it slipped for him, but it didn't. And it goes to show you the skill of the Brazilian in... He's had another moment this time around, though. Let's see it. What happened?
It just takes too much speed into the corner. The rear of the car tries to overtake the front. He does very well to get it stopped and to prevent it from penduluming all the way around. He stays in 6th place, but loses touch to the big train up in front of him, and that's going to really hamper his race, or the race he was trying to run. Meanwhile, this is Lee Tucker. This is the battle for 8th place, going wheel to wheel with Sebastian Scandalola. Oh, look at this. Down the inside, has a bit of a touch, but keeps it nice and clean. Lee Tucker, great job to get ahead. But look at this. This is what happens. Oh, Lee Tucker, he's had an incident here earlier on with Valdez Suarez.
Yeah, just after Suarez's incident, Lee Tucker just has a slight bump onto the rear end of Suarez's car, probably not expecting him to go that slowly in the situation here. Back comes Scandalera on the inside, and he's going to try to send it through this time around, and I think he'll make it stick. But it's a good exit and a cutback from the Lamborghini when he's going to be on the outside for the next one, which I think is going to deter him. And he's going to try for another cutback. And cutback, and that might just work wonders. Lee Tucker certainly looking fit for fight at the moment. Doesn't seem too hampered by the damage. And up ahead now, Pete Plastow. 2.5 seconds he's lost to race leader and teammate Matthew Forrest. Right now, Virtual Racing Compound really taking a controlling stance on this race, and they're trying to keep that control. Trying to keep the rest of the Ferraris and an Audi indeed from getting anything away from this race. Gaston Macaroni, Colin Mulder, and Martin de Jong as well in this Audi. We haven't really seen anything from Martin de Jong yet, but we know that the Holy Cow driver really has pace about him. It's a lap car doing a sterling job of staying out the way there. Just looking down through the field, here is a battle indeed. Oh, I'm afraid Lee Tucker has had another problem here, because I think there's more damage to his car. He's fallen into the clutches of Sander Kaffa and the 1-2-3 car. And I'm just gonna see what's gone on here, whether that's the incident from before. It is indeed. So, well, there was a bit of argy-bargy maybe before between the two drivers. And this situation, oh my word! Oh! So, that's Scandalera. I don't think he's gonna be appreciative of that one. He's sent onto his roof, then flips back around and into the tires. And the car...
That's gotta go down like a cup of cold sick, isn't it, for Scandalera there? He was doing so well, and it was just a little bit of misjudgment potentially on the brakes for Lee Tucker that caused that little incident, as we see Stephen Orell in the Holy Cow Racing machine sweeping his way through past Jose Cadinho there for 11th position. It's really using the slipstream to good effect, and also using the grunt of that big, just heavy engine in the front of that Mercedes to his advantage.
Yeah, and having moved up into 11th place, well, Dirk Brinksma up ahead in the John Player Audi has gained 13 positions in just over 12 laps, or just over 12 minutes of racing here. So that's a very, very fine start to the race for the Dutchman, who does indeed seem to know his way around. And at the head of the race, still stat quo, which means it's Matthew Forrest ahead of Pete Plastow, then Gaston Macaroni, Koen Mulder, and Martin de Jong. And only real thing that changed in that equation is the problems for Valdez Suarez Jr. We'll see if he can come back at a later stage. Further down, it's all blowing apart as well. And actually, the closest fight on track at the moment is this one for third place. Very close indeed, as Macaroni still tried to hold off the champ in behind, and now having, of course, commentated on the entire first season of racing as well, in which he took that title, Koen Mulder, very much the out of the Alan Prost school of drivers. He's a very patient driver indeed, and he's a driver that manages to drive with his head, even when under big pressure indeed. And that's what gave him the championship last season. Oh, Federico Carli has had a problem here, I'm afraid. The fire-breathing McLaren is not looking good at all, is it? It's a bit of a shame indeed. Scandalera, I think it's all over for him. For another incident here, let's see what happened. That car isn't looking good either, and he's gonna be into the gravel trap. A bit of a flash of the lights there, and I think he says, you know what, never mind. Oh, and another problem for Federico Carli. Needs to get the car back to the pit lane now, I'm afraid. Bit of a gap here for Gaston Macaroni. He's got Martin de Jong closing in on the reigning champ in between, though, and a fight that could be heating up indeed. Ahead of these drivers, both the virtual racing compound boys are now really springing their gap open.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to mention actually that Pete Plastow has been pulling away from Gaston every single lap now that Gaston's got Koen Mulder and Martin de Jong for company, and that's really going to play into the hands of the virtual racing compound drivers, and they can just try and clear off down at the front of the field. And I'm going to look now, I think it might start to open up now for the pit window. These cars have 60 litres of fuel. That gets you around about 30 minutes of running, so you can fully fuel up the cars now if you wanted to and go to the end, or you could try and go until around about the 30 or so minute mark and pit and take in half a tank of fuel. It's up to these drivers now at the moment what they want to do. If they feel like they're getting held up, and if they got some clearer air, they could go faster, then that's their chance to try and get the undercut to work. Or you can try and get your car to be lighter towards the end of the race and spend more time with a lighter car and try the overcut. It's a difficult strategy to try and think about which one is going to be faster for you, but I think only really the drivers behind the wheel know what they want to do right now.
Yeah, but in reality, the problem with that is that if you're going to pit early, you need to make it fit so that you don't spend longer in the pits than you would do if you went all the way to the 30-minute mark. So you need to make it so that you can actually fill in the, say, minimum amount of fuel and still be able to make it to the line. Otherwise, you're going to lose precious time taking in that fuel in the pit box. And unless you can really put down the hammer out on track, that's going to be counterintuitive then to do in the end. But what we could see is here at the 22 minutes or so, we could see some of these drivers might be tired of having to battle along consistently. Well, they might be coming in to do that undercut on the competitors, and it's something that is indeed a very, very viable strategy. Oh, we've had another problem for Valdez Suarez. And it's in turn 1 yet again, isn't it? Or is this later on the track? Oh, he makes contact this time as well. And the Brazilian is not enjoying it.
Yeah, he loses out there to Van der Broek, I believe, just passing through him in the BMW. That's Valdez Suarez. After such a good, promising start to this race, is really plummeting down the order. It's unfortunate to see, but that's just sometimes the way the racing goes. This Zandvoort circuit really does punish mistakes, as we see a fight here, and Stephen Orrell can't afford to make any mistakes whatsoever, as Jose Godinho is right up behind him, and as Matthew Forrest sets the fastest lap of the race so far, a 36.3. That's almost on par with his qualifying time.
Yeah, it is actually pretty much on par with the qualifying time. It's not a long way off indeed, and he's certainly hammering it along at the moment. He's really increasing his advantage big time. Both down to teammate Teeth Plastow. I don't know what I'm on about now. It's really I've lost it. I've officially lost it.
Did you have it to begin with?
Teammate. No, I've never had it at all. So it's hard to lose something that you don't have.
And he's lost
speaking
it.
of people who's lost it, and it's exactly Ed made just a few tenths of a second quicker than me on his reactions there. But Stuart Jacklin, brilliant reactions from him. Speaking of reactions, being able to catch that Audi in the first place. Let's see if we can just find another look. Perhaps this will show us. If we just sit tight for a moment. I would like to see that again. That was very, 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 very close.
Exactly, yeah, we're going to see. Does he have a little bit of a touch on the grass that kicks it off? Or not? It's going into this sector of the track. I think just going through the first sector now. We're going to have to follow Stuart Jacklin as he makes his way into someone. He has a little bit of a look down the inside of someone. No, we don't actually see what has happened there, but he did lose the rear of the car. Did very well, though, to keep it on the straight and narrow and only lose out a little bit of time, not lose out any positions to the car behind. Meanwhile, down the inside, having a little bit of a look, is Martin de Jong on Koen Mulder, but pulls out of that maneuver, thinks better of it, and slots back in behind. But the pressure is starting to mount for our reigning champion, Koen Mulder, but he himself is going to try and find any way past Gaston up in front, because, well, Gaston might actually be the cork in the bottle. Pete Plastow got past and has built a bit of a gap, and you have to wonder if Koen Mulder were to get ahead, would he be able to create a gap?
Yeah, maybe, but the thing is that Koen Mulder seems to get very close at some parts of the track, but he doesn't really get close enough, and then at certain other times he seems to fall behind. Oh, and here comes the move from Mulder up the inside. He's gonna take second. Oh, that's third place, of course. And Koen Mulder, just as we spoke about it, there it was. And I'm wondering whether there was a small mistake maybe made from Macaroni to allow Koen Mulder to get through there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Gaston. He's not one to give it up, does he? Let's have a look. He runs a little bit wide going through that corner, but it doesn't seem like it. It's just he gets caught out. It's a chance down the inside because you have to naturally take such a wide line. Koen Mulder seizes that opportunity, breaks late on the inside, gets the position done and dusted. But will Gaston try and fight his way back on the run into turn one? We've seen time and time again positions able to be made up, but I think the gap is just a little bit too much for Gaston to make up, and he could actually be under pressure here from Martin de Jong. And when it rains, it pours. Is he going to lose out on a position?
Oh,
Oh, he gets a bit of contact as he gets spun around. Oh, he does. Unfortunate there for Gaston. He tried to do everything right, but a little bit of contact that really upset his car.
Yeah, and you can see there's a bit of netcode involved there as well, because Martin de Jong effectively inside of Gaston Macaroni's car there for a second, and the Argentine
tried to get on the
driver...
brakes midway through as well, Martin. He didn't intend to do that. You could see just from the attitude of his car, it was just one of those little unfortunate incidents.
Yeah, very much a racing incident, I think, as well. So very much thought he had it, and you could see Macaroni maybe just ever so slightly missing the apex of turn 1 as well. That maybe gave the indication to Martin de Jong that there was a bit of space in there, that the Argentine wasn't really able, or wasn't really willing maybe to give up. Maybe willing, maybe able, Lord knows. Came to a very slight bit of contact that had dire consequences for Macaroni. And you can see it as well here. Not a scrape on the car of Martin de Jong. At least from what we can see here. That is, that's good for him as well. Here is Stephen Orrell up into 10th place, hunting down Sander Kaffa in the Ferrari up ahead. He's done well to keep, the rear end of the Mercedes. I think Stephen's running a fairly rearwards brake bias, and that would probably be to help the big beast turn in and to rotate as well. And that, of course, if you get too hard on the brakes, and come around to bite you in the hindsight. And speaking of hindsight, well, Gaston Borri is right on the hindsight of Stephen Crown here.
Yeah, going into turn 1, I don't think Stephen's going to be under pressure too much. Gap is just under 0.3 of a second, so he's safe going into first corner and then powering out both of these cars in the Ferrari. So level playing field, fixed setup, of course. They're running the exact same setup, the exact same. Only thing that could really potentially be changed is traction control or maybe even the brake bias, but that's about it for these drivers. As we see Gaston Borri, look at how close he's willing to get to the rear bumper of Stephen Krall, really putting on the pressure. And we'll be seeing a repeat of what we just saw a few laps earlier when Kerr Mulder sent one down the inside on Gaston just a few laps earlier. I don't think so. He's not quite close enough. He just loses out a little bit of time from the sweeping right-handers. Just being so close behind that might upset the air balance just a little bit on these GT3 cars. You do get a slight effect of dirty air, and that could be what is holding up. Meanwhile, no one is seeking to hold up Matthew Forrest or Pete Plasdow at the front of the field. The gap between Pete and Cohen Mulder now almost 4 seconds. Massive margins being made here at the front, and Martin de Jong himself, he's trying to build a lovely gap to Timothy van der Broek. Further back, the Stage 1 racing driver is 6 seconds, so the front of the field is starting to spread, but the battles are still raging on lower down. This is something that could be brewing between Matthew Maddox and Alessio Coniglio.
Yeah, indeed. Some of the cars further down the order at the moment. Some of those drivers having been involved in a few incidents already through the opening 25 minutes. This 45-minute race, 20 still to go. Here's, I think it's pit stops time for Alfredo Tricarici. And in he comes for his scheduled pit stop. Might be time for a bit of repairs as well. And Kaffa seems to have his Ferrari sorted out underneath him, and Stephen Orrell, while close, that seemed really to get close enough in the Mercedes. So just how that's going to play out will be interesting to follow. Of course, gains can indeed be made over a pit stop round, and we'll see if that is indeed the case. At the rear end of the field, it is quite spread out indeed. The closest fight down there is actually the one we're having a look at the moment, and I'm saying that as Sander Kaffa is actually extending the advantage, and then the two closest cars on track will be the machines of Timothy van der Broek and Valdir Suarez Jr. Just half a second separating those two, and Timothy van der Broek wants that Ferrari up ahead to get out of the way because he's got a fast Brazilian bearing down upon him.
Absolutely, and the Ferrari obliges him, gets out of the way, and doesn't want to get involved in this battle whatsoever. And now we will be able to see what Timothy van der Broek can get out of his BMW. He's the highest positioned BMW in this race. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, all of the different car makes and models, doing very well for himself in the Stage 1 Racing BMW. And then, of course, we have the highest positioned Mercedes. Could be trying to make another one as he seeks to go around the outside of Sander Kaffer, who Sander Kaffer actually brakes a lot earlier. He's might be just trying to get out of the way of a very quick and very aggressive Steven Laurel.
Interestingly so. Oh, there's been a problem here for Martin de Jong. This is Timo Paya, and that's not what I wanted to show you. This is what I wanted to show, and Martin de Jong, you know, excellent work.
Roadblock.
Yeah, indeed, a rolling roadblock there for a moment, and that's one of the fast and aged BMWs. And then losing 2 positions there as well. Excellent job from the BMW actually getting the car stopped before really making contact with Martin de Jong's Audi. He's going to appreciate that as he'll be able to just drive on more or less here. Pete Plastow and Koen Mulder in the pits now. Matthew Forrest staying out to do an extra lap, interestingly so. And let's see if any changes for positions will be made between the two. Plastow's in, Mulder is right behind. Lee Tucker is in as well, but that's further down the pit lane. There goes Pete Plastow. Seems to be all well and good. And I think actually Pete Plastow's gained a little bit of time on Koen Mulder. And so he has over the course of that pit stop.
Yeah, the margin just over 4 seconds now between Pete Plastow and Koen Mulder, and we're going to be seeing Valdir Suarez has now been temporarily promoted up into P3, but with the pit stops that will be coming in very shortly, I'm not sure that will be able to last. Meanwhile, Matthew Forrest, not in last, in first. When will he come into the pits? Now where all eyes, I think, might be on our race leader for when he feels he can bring the car in. Lee Tucker in the other Lamborghini there in 12th position. This is a fight going on between Martin de Jong and Gaston, and Gaston has passed back in front, and oh, that's a bit of damage actually on the rear bumper of Martin de Jong. He's already got a little bit on the rear wing. He's trying to turn in, leaves plenty of space for Gaston, and what has happened to Koen Mulder there to give not Koen Mulder, Martin de Jong, to give him that amount of damage?
Oh, there we have it. There we have it indeed. Martin de Jong has been so consistent. And then on corner exit gets on the curb and unsettles the car. Oh, and it's a steel barrier. The Armco really not a friendly thing to hit. And that's going to have caused some damage to his car. And you can see it looks just that so slightly more unsettled. And instantly comes into the pit. Hopefully he's going to be able to get things sorted. But the rear wing
has been in and out of the pits and is ahead of Pete Plastow.
Yeah, this is just how
but
you...
Not by much.
Not by much, though. He hasn't been as quick as his teammate through the pits. And let's see if Plastow can now put on the pressure. Mind you, they don't want to race each other too hard. I think they'll be pretty happy just to run it through here. They have a 4.5-5 second advantage down to Koen Mulder. Still a few cars that have yet to take their pit stops up ahead. And interestingly to see just how it's going to stand when everyone comes out of the pit. Martin de Jong is now rejoining, but he's going to be quite a way down the order, which is not good for him at all. Suggests that he's taken his repairs here. 15 minutes left of racing. Still watching Koen Mulder sitting in 6th place, but it's virtually going to be 3rd. There's a few cars up ahead have not had their pit stops yet. Melillo in 7th hasn't had the pit stop, and then the cars in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place have yet to pit as well, saying that I think they're going to be pitting in right around now. Sander Kaffer is being caught up by the call them the virtual leaders doing the gentlemanly thing and getting out of the way, knowing that he's going to pit in anyway this round.
Absolutely. So now that has, of course, as you mentioned, promoted Matthew Forrest and Pete Plasdow into the lead of the race. And further back, we're seeing a battle raging on between Gaston Boré in the virtual racing car. Just behind, Stephen Kroll. And Stephen is trying to cover off each way and what way, left and right, leaving a little bit of space on the apex, but there was not really a move to be made down the inside of that corner. And instead, Gaston Boré, he's going to try and pick up the power as early as he can. Stephen Kroll has to get out with the throttle there, and that's really hampered his run into the first corner. Will he cover off the move down the inside, or will he have confidence to sweep around and keep the car in front? He's using that outside line to defend, and he's used it to stay in front just for now. But look how close the margins are. Gaston Boré really up the rear bumper of Stephen Kroll, but how long will Stephen be able to hold off?
Yeah, it's a good battle. Interestingly indeed, that outside line much more viable than you'd maybe think. Interestingly as well, we've got the virtual racing compound telling us that it's blue against red at the head of the race at the moment. They will be fighting, so no team orders to just slow it down and take it easy. In other words, no multi-21, which is nice to hear. Also, I think it's going to be easier to pull off in the end. Oh, Gaston Boré gets the company. I think that's one of the Audis. That's Stuart Jacklin sending her up the inside. Is he going to make that stick? It's going to be the outside for the left-hander here, but he's going to get the long way around in the run here. I think he's going to have it. And once again, I'm going to be wrong. Still side by side here as they come towards the right-hander. Stuart Jacklin and the Audi, and he's not going to be ahead. But a long, long two-way battle there, and we're going to have another look. Sort of came out of nowhere. And a nice move from Stuart Jacklin, nice fending off as well from Gaston Boré there.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaston Boré's trying every way he can, but he's going to try and fight his way back up through the race. We're going to see exactly just another replay of what happens. He tries to send it down the inside. Almost works out for him, but then the way the track moves around to the blinks in and out gives maybe a bit of a fright to Stuart Jacklin there in the Audi, and then as they race their way down into the chicane, great racing from the pair of them, giving each other just enough space, nothing too more. You don't, of course, want to give positions to your competitors, and well, Stuart Jacklin has to wait yet another lap or so to have a chance to pass back up in front for 11th place. And what on earth has happened to Valdir Suarez? His evening is going from bad to worse. He's going to a crawl here on the circuit and pulls off, I think, into the pits. Yeah, unfortunate there for Valdir Suarez, who last season, don't forget, was in big contention. Look at that. He just is. Does he not pit? I thought he already came in and out of the pits, so I'm not sure what's gone on there. Gaston sweeping around the outside of the stricken Ferrari.
Yeah, he did already have a pit stop under his belt, so I don't know just what happened to Valdir Suarez, but that's going to be a...
He's getting moving again.
Well, there must have been something wrong there, but it's very hard to judge just what it was then. The gap between the leaders, 1.1 second, so it's coming back and forth. 10 minutes of racing left. Pete Plasdow gonna try and see if he can deliver a late charge here. Koen Mulder, third place so far for the Dutchman. The reigning champ, I think, will be happy to pick up some points at a tough race, and after a tough race indeed. It's been a hard fight for the opening half of this race for positions 2nd through 5th, or even down to 6th place as well. Timothy van der Broek has come out alive. He's in 4th at the moment. And Gaston Macaroni in 5th, Lee Tucker 6th. Steven Orell is up into 7th place. Sander Kaffer in 8th, and Savino Melillo 9th. And Stephen Kroll for Holy Cow Racing. He's jumped up 11 places since starting, and he's sitting in 10th at the moment. And well, a lot of drivers having had the luck to keep it running here. Chris Pio, 22nd place for the Ford GT. And he's certainly making that car survive this time around. The damage there to the front end of the machine. And now back up to something that is a little bit of a closer battle here. Lee Tucker, who's trying to defend from Stephen Orrell, and I think Stephen Orrell is closing the gap here.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's going to be able to see just how much straight line speed he's able to carry in his Mercedes as he gets up behind the slipstream of Lee Tucker, closing in, closing down, but not close enough to send a move into the first corner. But all of that slipstreaming is really helping him out and helping to pile the pressure on Lee Tucker. The very stricken looking Lamborghini, it has to be said, it doesn't look the prettiest of beasts at the moment, with a bit of damage. And what has happened here with Gaston? Has he just run a little bit wide? Does he keep it out of the wall? Yes, he does. A little bit of an off-track excursion, gets back up and running, but loses out a lot of time. And if he has any more mistakes like that, Lee Tucker could be able to close down on him and maybe make it a three-way fight for fifth position.
Yeah, very much so. I was just thinking the same thing. Gaston, he has to keep his cool here at this late stage of the race. Oh, there's been a small problem for Sander Kaffer right in behind the battle we saw before, but that's just going to be a slight excursion as well. Although that kind of bump coming back onto the track, we won't have been doing too much good for his car. Anyways, you can see the gap here, and it's coming down consistently. And
Again, though, there's that little twitch, isn't it, under brakes for the Mercedes? It isn't quite the car it used to be in terms of stability.
No, but he gets some really good exits here, and I think he's using it to his advantage. It might not look as stable, but he's making the car turn here. Lee Tucker with a bit of a problem, and Stephen Orrell having to back off mid-corner. Not to make contact with the Lamborghini. He's very, very close this time around. We're going to go on board with Lee Tucker. No, we're not. We're going to go back to Stephen Orrell and see if he's gonna make that more than a big old look. He should have pulled out of that and maybe take. Oh, but he's actually psyched Lee Tucker into a bit of a mistake there. And the mind games are being played here, coming into the final 5 minutes of this race. Stephen Orrell is trying to make a good performance even better. One of the drivers has been able to. Okay. So Matthew Forrest with a bit of blinking for a second there, and that certainly caught me out. He had standing us out in the standings, and that certainly looks scary there for a second. The gap's underneath a second, by the way. And here is a battle that's heating up as well. Stuart Jacklin, Stephen Krall, and Gaston Boré all around half a second, separating these three cars from one another. That's going to be one to keep an eye on as well. And very much so the closest three cars on track for the time being.
Stephen Krall, though, his rearview mirrors are going to be filled, aren't they? As we see the Audi really closing down. Look at how much speed and confidence Stuart Jacklin has on the entry speed for his Lamborghini. He just can't match the raw acceleration, the exit speed that Stephen Krall is able to take. He's really playing to the strengths of his Ferrari. We know that the Audi is a car that you can really throw into the corners, carry a lot of speed in, but on the exit, it's just not as stable as the Ferraris, and the gaps ebbs and flows lap after lap. And while Stuart Jacklin, maybe if he had clear air, he could be faster. It's all about being able to capitalize on the corner exits to set yourself up for those entries and use the superior entry speed that you can take in your Audi machine to your advantage. But Stuart Jacklin has a little bit of a look down the inside, not close enough to really send it. Instead, just trying to psych out Stephen Krall, but Stephen Krall not seeming like he's going to make any mistakes just yet. As we come into the final 5 minutes of this race, Lee Tucker defending from Stephen Orrell. The gap under half a second, 4/10 it is between the pair of them. Stephen Orrell, we know how quick he is. He's been able to see Lee Tucker with the damage on his car is vulnerable to a few mistakes, and vulnerable to a mistake like that, losing out on the apex, can really hamper your run. But Stephen Orrell, using the Mercedes, it's difficult to get that beast turned in, and if it does turn in, sometimes it turns in a little bit too much.
Yeah, indeed. There's limits to how much grip you can get out of these tires. But Stephen Orrell still trying to find the magical way around Lee Tucker. It'll be an interesting and very impressive performance as well from Lee Tucker to have carried home 6th place with a car with that amount of damage. Oh, and there's been a problem, I'm afraid, here around Alfredo Tricorici and Dirk Brinksma. And Dirk Brinksma is in the Audi in behind. You have to wonder. Oh, there's just a net code there, and Tricorici holds back. But it looked like maybe it was gonna be a contact anyway, but certainly they didn't actually touch until the game decided that they did actually touch, but they didn't actually touch. But that's, you know, the game of net code. There's one thing that we don't want to... But to be fair, if you have a netcode incident, it means you've been very, very, very close to another car, at least most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really tricky as well if you are right up behind the car in front. If you are using singles, it builds up the entire front of what you can see and means that when you're turning in for the corners, you don't have any reference points. You just need to sort of go off of muscle memory. So depending on what the drivers are running in terms of their sim rigs, that can also be a bit of a hampering effect of just being right up the rear bumper of a car in front. Meanwhile, though, Matthew Forrest at the front of the field. He's got just about 2 minutes to go. That equates to what? He's got 2 more laps, I think, or this lap, and then 1 more. And we should be able to see him and his Virtual Racing Compound teammate take the checkered flag. Meanwhile, Timothy van der Broek having a very good race, up 6 positions from the start of the race. He's got the car dialed into how he wants it, and well, he's seemingly not wanting to give up on 4th place. There is a car behind of, I believe that is Valdez Suarez, but Valdez Suarez being being a lap down, this isn't a fight for position.
No, very much so. Timothy van der Broek having done a very good job indeed. We can see a few of the drivers around the front end actually having driven the race with 0x so far as well. And there is actually a safety standings as well, and a prize at the end of the season for the safest driver to have competed in the series. So that's one to watch out for, and certainly one that you can aim for as well. I think a lot of the drivers at the top of the field are actually given a little bit of a better situation to have a clean race, because they have such they have less traffic, less battles, and all that thing. Here is Cody Steek on the tail of Martin de Jong. This has been a race to forget for the Dutchman up ahead after that incident of his, and it seems it's taken a bit of a toll on the performance of the Audi here, and the Mercedes getting closer and closer. Cody Steeg in the 60 car is sensing that there might be gains to be made here in the final minute of the race. Speaking of the final minute, we'll see the checkered flag waved in about 15 seconds. Question is, we are not gonna have that waved until Matthew Forrest has gone past them, which means this will be the final lap of racing. And what a race it's been for Virtual Racing Compound. VRC bringing home the 1-2 with the Lamborghini and the Ferrari of Matthew Forrest and Pete Plastow.
Exactly, Hasse. And from last time out at Imola, don't forget, we had Martin de Jong, who took the race victory. So this definitely has been a race he would rather leave behind. So did Valdez Suarez. He got himself in second, and Gaston Macaroni finished on the podiums, but we'll have a completely fresh podium by the looks of things. It would be Matthew Forrest, Pete Plastow, and Colin Mulder, as long as everything stays nice and safe. However, Stephen Orrell, he's got just a few more corners to go to really send a move on the car in front.
Checkered flag is out, and Matthew Forrest picks up the win. And the Virtual Racing Compound seals the deal of a 1-2. The reigning champ gets third on the day here for Colin Mulder. It's going to be good points in the bank for him. As we mentioned before, Timothy van der Broek has had a good race indeed. And looks to pick up 4th place there across the line. Next up is going to be Gaston Macaroni. And from 2nd on the grid, it could have been fantastic. Wouldn't quite call it fantastic, but it's a top 5 finish. And it's a most respectable performance nonetheless. Oh, and what has happened to Lee Tucker? Because Oral has passed, Savino Melillo has passed as well. Here is Lee Tucker. Oh my word, that's gonna be... That must have been absolute last minute action. And I'm just gonna see if we can get another shot of just what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. We did know he was locked in that titanic battle with himself and Steven, but we want to figure out what on earth happened to the Apex Tech Lamborghini that was doing so well in its defense of 6th position as all of the drivers make their way across the line. Now, good performances all around, especially for drivers in the top 5. And what's happened here, Hasse?
Well, that Sander Kaffa has hit a bit of an off. That's a bad time to have that as well. But I've still not been able really to figure out just when, where, what, and why. And it frustrates me because I want to figure it out, and I want to see it. It's seems to be a rather dramatic finale here. I'm sorry, I'm pausing a bit here. I'm just looking through our event viewer, trying to see if we could. I don't see it somewhere, but it seems that it's gone. Maybe if I just a bit of typing. That. See, this is quite a bit away from the end of the race, as well. This is at the pit stop, so certainly not here. Oh well, it's not gonna happen, I'm afraid. Sorry, but results are gonna go up, and with a bit of a late surprise in around please 6 there for Stephen Oral. But Matthew Forrest and Pete Plastow with Cohen Mulder rounding off the podium, then Timothy van der Broek, Gaston Macaroni, Stephen Oral, Savino Melillo, then Lee Tucker 8th, Sander Kaffa and Stephen Kral in 10th place. Then Stuart Jacklin, Gaston Borre, Matt de Jong, Cody Steek and Nils Cornelis. The Portuguese Jose Gordinho there in 16th. Then Dirk Reski and Robert van den Heuvel, or the Lobster, will in 18th place, ahead of Alfredo Trigorici, Dirk Brinksma, Luke Schneider, and Chris Pio. Valdir Suarez gets 23rd in the end. And Matthew Maddox just behind him, Guillermo Javier, and Alessio Cornelio, Mariano Lasarta 27th, and Orkun Kolak in 28th place. Then Federico Carli, Nick McLaughlin, Timo Paya, Luca Gagliardini, and Sebastian Scandolera, 33rd, that is, Dean Pavicic in 34th. Then Sven Dalemans, Gary Waldron, Pedro Cladera, and Sandro Orsini. And in the final 2 positions, Damian Koba and a very unlucky Emanuele Lucioli for the fast and aged team.
Absolutely, but what a race. We had 40 cars out on the grid, and we have one of the drivers here that we can bring in to have a chat to, Hassan. And you think, you know what, we should have a talk with our race leader, our race victor, Matthew Forrest. Matt, great race from your perspective, and you're finally able to capitalize on what was maybe a race to forget last time out at Imola, but coming here to Zandvoort, you really, really made up for that one.
Yeah, it was good fun this week. I knew it was quick around here in the baseline setup, so Pete made it a bit interesting after the pit stops. But I practiced. I was doing 35.5s, so it wasn't really it was just about keeping it on the track, really.
Absolutely, and talk us through driving the baseline setup, because from what I've experienced driving the Lamborghini, it has different brake master cylinders at the front and back, and that I found created a lot of difficulties when trying to get the car stopped for corners. Was that something you just had to manage your race?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, initially I didn't really think much about it. It was only towards the last 5 minutes where I noticed my brakes were starting to go off and I could feel the tyres underneath just slipping around some of the corners of brake a little bit earlier. And just managed that distance between myself and Pete.
Well, fair enough, Matt. And talk us through this championship, your hopes and expectations going into the next few rounds, because you've been looking very quick, both at Imola and here.
Yeah, I don't really have any expectations, to be honest. It's just fun to race. The results will just speak for themselves. I think I wasn't unlucky last week at Imola. It was my own fault. It was stupidity taking my eyes off the screen in Tamburello, which caused the damage, really. But yeah, just enjoying the racing. Good bunch of guys, well organised, and team seems to be doing quite well today.
Don't worry about those little mistakes. I've been able to get my fair share of those recently. It's all about just dusting yourself off and getting back on track that you've certainly been able to do here at Zandvoort. But before we say goodbye to you, was there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to here on Sim Racers World TV?
Just the rest of Virtual Racing Compound and the team watching and racing today, and obviously the organisers, Robert and the likes of. Really good job.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. We'll let you get back to your teammates and celebrate a very much hard-earned and well-deserved victory here.
Cheers.
So, Hasse, that was Matthew Forrest, our race victor here this evening, and we've got the pick of the bunch for other drivers. Who do you want to bring in for the next chat?
Well, we're going to take the teammate of the winner, second place finisher, Pete Plastow. Pete, brilliant job by you and your teammate Matt Forrest today to take first and second, and put you in a very good position as well in terms of the championship fight.
Yeah, it's a good race today. Really clean by me and the guys that are around me, to be honest. Matt was just in a different league in practice, qualifying and the race, it turned out, so fortunately I couldn't get it.
And coming into this season, were you thinking about the fact that you, on points last season, had you not missed a few rounds, you could have been in there very much with a chance of picking up the title? Is that something that you're going to aim for this season?
It'll probably happen again towards the end of the year. So, but I'm just enjoying every race that I do, and that's all that matters to me. Really, is the good racecraft, clean racing, and having a bit of fun with the lads.
Oh, yeah, indeed. A good approach, I'd dare to say as well. You seem to gain quite a lot of time on your teammate today over the pit stop round, and you came out just about a second behind. Did you put a lot of practice into that?
Not really. I just thought, what else can I do? I'm a little bit slower than him. I think he was just cruising at the time, but I was a little bit slower, so tried the undercut and see what happens, and it turned out that I gained about 3 seconds somehow. I think maybe he overfueled a bit, but it was the only thing I could do really from where I was, so I gave it a go.
Well, indeed. Pete, thanks for joining us for a post-race talk here in the booth. And before we let you off the hook, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout-out to?
Just a shout-out to the whole team, really. BRC Compound, great bunch of guys. Keep me practicing, getting quicker. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gents, Pete Plastow, our second place finisher for tonight. And a very, very good job by you as well. Congratulations on it, Pete, and hope to see you again here in the booth for another talk next time around.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was Pete Plastow, and we're going to have one more interviewee. It's going to be Ed May having a talk with our third place finisher. It's going to be Cohen Mulder. Yeah,
Cohen, welcome to the commentary box. And last time out at Imola, you came fourth place, but you managed to do one better and get yourself on the podium. Just talk us through that race from your perspective, because it was definitely one that you had to put a lot of work in to get that result.
Hi guys, welcome again. Yeah, it was a tough race. Well, Imola was unfortunately not my best, but yeah, fourth place, a little bit luck. This race it was close battling in the beginning, and after a crash with, I think what happened, I consolidated and I thought, all right, third place is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You just had to keep yourself nice and clean and keep yourself out of danger, I guess, of making any mistakes. But just talk us through the difference it is between the two races. Obviously, the first one being an open setup and this one being fixed, does it change how you drive at all? Does it change maybe the way you'd race?
Yeah. If you're gonna this race with the baseline setup, you need to ease out your driving style. It was a little bit warm, so cold tires, a little bit difficult to get anything worked out. But last race Imola, it was my own setup, so unfortunately I didn't get the results. So maybe next time we got a new setup.
Well, you were the highest placed Dutchman in that race as well at the Dutch circuit. Was it home advantage that probably helped you get that podium, or is it just a track that you're naturally quite good at anyways?
Yeah, I have a little bit of love-hate relationship with Zandvoort. Luckily, I ended podium, so a little bit Dutch party. So yeah, great.
Well, brilliant job, Kern. But before we say goodbye to you, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to here on the broadcast?
Yeah, of course, the host organization, Robert.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Kern, for that. And we will be able to see you out on track next time in a couple of weeks' time. Best of luck to you and your teammates, of course, for that one.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. See you guys.
So that was Koen Mulder, and that's gonna be the conclusion of our section of interviews. And as such, that's gonna be the conclusion of tonight's broadcast. Edward, if you were to summarize what we've seen here on the channel tonight in a few words, how would you do so?
Oh, it was excellent, wasn't it, Hasse? It was a race from start to finish that had its moments, a few thrills, a few spills, but at this circuit at Zandvoort, the drivers made the best of the narrow tarmac and gave us a real race to remember.
Well, a race to remember indeed. And thanks for joining us for it. It's been a pleasure having you all along here on SimRacers World TV. Thanks to SimracerCoin for sponsoring the series. And give us a like if we deserve it. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button with the bell notification icon to stay notified of when we go live. Indeed, this series will be returning, and I'm just having a look at it. It's gonna be quite some time, I'm afraid, before we're back with more Sunday GT Masters. We're gonna be all the way down on March 21st, so that's an entire month away, I'm afraid. An entire month before we're back. Luckily though, there's plenty of action to be seen on SimRacers World TV. You might know we're live right now with Jack Oliphant and Jack World. Jack and Jack is live for the Sunday Drivers MX5 series. I'll be back with Jack Oliphant tomorrow for SRW NASCAR series sponsored by Dynamics. We got the SRW TCR series with Chas Dracut and Peter Mackay on Tuesday, and the same lineup for the Porsche Club GB series on Wednesday. Thursdays we've got another Chas day with the SRW F3 series, and believe it or not, but we've got the Belcar Winter series coming up this Friday as well from Mosport, which is going to be 4 hours, me and Chas indeed. So plenty of stuff to catch this week here on SimRacers World TV. My name is Hasse Rømer. I am in the booth, or have been, and it has been my pleasure to commentate alongside Ed May tonight yet again here from the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 Masters. Tune in some other good day, and until then, from us here at SimRacers World, take care, have fun, bye bye.